Welcome to the How to Health podcast. I'm Dr. Laurie Marbas, and I am beyond blessed and honored to have the Dr. John McDougall join me today. How are you today, sir?
Today I'm better than yesterday. It's amazing.
I am so happy to hear that.
And I really mean it too. Every day it seems to be a little better day.
That's amazing.
But
So
I've had quite a year.
you have had quite a year, sir. And last year you had a fire and lost almost everything, if not everything. How are you doing now?
Oh, pretty good. No, I won't tell you about all the real serious things that happened, but Mary and I have had 45 years of wonderful marriage and 70 years of great life. But somehow 2017 got us. We had some major injuries, which set us back quite a bit, but we're recovered and recovering. That's why I say I'm better every day. And at 12:45 a.m. October 9th, 2017, I got these pounds from these three little children on my front door, which is near my bedroom door, and finally they woke me up. And they said, "Grandpa, you got to get out of here. The house is burning down." Of course, I was sound asleep. But I did get out with my oldest pair of tennis shoes they picked, and one of my old pair of pajamas and my computer, and I left. And Mary left with her phone and her purse and some real light clothes. And 5 minutes later, the house was gone.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we lost the house. We lost 3 cars. We lost everything material that we had. Everything material we had. We lost, except things put away in the bank, of course, and that kind of stuff. But you know what? I'm sure the 5,000 families this happened to, homes. And I'm sure there are many, many feelings out there, and they're all deserved. But my natural tendency is to try and get the best out of things when I'm dealing with patients who are really, really sick, or problems that are very difficult, or even problems in our own family that are hard. I try and find that light side. And a day or two later, I came to the correct conclusion. That is, how many people get to start their life over again at 70? Really? There were all kinds of things that I'd been dealing with. I had to get a new roof on the house. That was going to be $80,000 this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was going to have to get a new paint job on the house. That would probably been about $30,000, $40,000. You should have seen my closet at home. I had 20 years of suits in there. We had years of stuff we collected, all kinds of things that I had scheduled next week to have 2 men with a dumpster come and clean both attics out. I don't have to do that anymore. Seriously, I do take it that way. We weren't hurt.
Right.
It was a terrible thing, and now it's almost April, and I doubt if anyone touched by that fire has found a way to get over it.
I'm just thankful for your grandchildren.
Yeah, they lost their home too.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, many of our workers did too, but the next week we had a program scheduled at our clinic.
Okay.
For Century Lake, which is a big telecommunication company, where we take care of their employees who come in with high blood pressure, diabetes, all kinds of troubles. There's a lot of weight problems. And our doctors, which can mount between 3 and 7, depending upon how many people we have come from a company, will take care of these people during the program, which amounts to 8 to 10 days. And like our other patients, in fact, if you want to look at our data, we have published data. I have 7 papers published in the scientific literature.
Wonderful.
Yeah, well, I was encouraged to do it. I don't like doing research, particularly, or the tediousness of collecting all these numbers, but I was encouraged along the way by several people to, you get these fantastic results. Why don't you get them published in a medical journal? Then other doctors will do it. Anyway, I published an article in 2014. You can find it easily. It's in the Journal of Nutrition. And it's about 1,615 people. I'll repeat that number again, because that's a lot of people I got to get to know.
Wow.
1,615 people during one period of time. It was about 10 years. I've taken care of about 5,000 people personally in a living situation. And about 10,000 people altogether I've taken care of. So we published the results. We didn't leave anybody out. No, everybody was included. Those who said they didn't follow the diet, those who followed it strictly, those who had been starving before, everybody was included in it. And the results that you can look at, which have never been criticized, they're published 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, show average weight loss eating as much as you want of food that they love. They really do love it. The first night they may think it's a little bland, then they put a little salt over the top, and then it tastes really good. The average weight loss in 7 days, eating as much as they wanted. This is counting those people who gained weight. 3.1 pounds.
How many pounds?
3.1.
2.1.
3.1. So 3.1, that was like, 45,000 pounds.
Oh, wow.
No, 3.1 pounds on average. And the cholesterol drop was 22 points on average. No change in medication. The blood pressure drop in people with high blood pressure was 18 over 11 millimeters of mercury. What the study says, but doesn't show in any detail, is that nearly 90% of people were able to reduce or stop their blood pressure medication. Yeah. As far as type 2 diabetics, we essentially got at least 90% of them off all their medicine. And the overall blood sugars in the program didn't change, even though we took them off their medication. So people did really, really well. We've published it. That's a 7-day study, and some people were skeptical. Oh, that's just 7 days. Anyway, you can do anything for 7 days. Well, I raised some money. We have a Research and Education Foundation, which you can find on our website, and any extra money you have laying around. You can just donate to this 501c3 tax-free.
I will put a link.
Tax-free foundation. I'll pay for more studies. But anyway, we took that money and we came to Oregon Health and Science University, which is where I live now. Yeah, at OHSU, right near. And we took the money about, it's about 7 years ago. And we took $750,000 and gave it to their researchers with my instructions, which is that they have to eat the way we suggest. And the way they'll do that is they'll comply by having the study people initially come to my clinic and stay for the period of time that we're on the clinic. And in this case, it was 10 days. So all of these people came and stayed, no special instruction. They just came to the clinic. And we had a chance to study them. Not we, those guys over there, OHSU. Because I had nothing to do with it after that. I just taught them. They had a chance to study these people, and they saw miracles they'd never seen before. Now, it was never hard for them to admit it, but they did. The average weight loss was 20 pounds at the end of a year. At the end of a year, these people didn't even come for weight loss. They came for multiple sclerosis. Yeah, the average cholesterol drop was 22 points at the end of a year, with no other help. I mean, basically, they came, learned the diet, and 85% of them were found to be compliant for a year. 85% were compliant. Why? Well, because the food's good, tremendous, delicious food. Potatoes, and mashed potatoes, and pasta and marinara sauce, and a couple of our famous veggie burgers and all kinds of cereals, really good stuff. I think it's actually on the website, which is drmcdougall.com.
Yep.
So you get an idea of what was served. Well, they like the food there. They, of course, love the companionship. They can't believe what happened to Joe sitting next to him, whose kidneys improved, or Jane sitting next to her, whose greasy skin went away, that had given her acne for 40 years. You know, the miracles that happen are absolutely amazing, except for one thing. We fix the problem. The problem's the food. People are sick because they eat. Now listen carefully. Anybody, any of your friends who are listening, they need to hear the following 2 or 3 sentences. People in the United States of America, Canada, China now, India now, almost all the rest of the world, certainly more than half the population of the planet, are sick for the same reason. Reason. I think reason is right. It's not plural. It's the food. It's the food. Long time ago, and I've got historical records going back 4,000 years for the pharaohs and the priests and the queens of Egypt, who ate the rich food, who got studies of the mummies, found half of them who they could find their arteries had atherosclerosis, which leads to heart attacks and strokes. They found gallbladder disease. They found obesity. They found all kinds of diseases that are epidemic. I mean, diseases occur in 80% of our population. 80% are overweight, 38% are obese, probably 80% have significant atherosclerosis when they get to adulthood. So they had diseases that are common in our country, but there were only a few of these rich people. There were only a few kings and queens. And over the years, over the thousands of years that passed, there were still a few kings and queens. But most people ate the common diet, which is easily identified, and all of your listeners know what it is. It's a common diet of starch. If you talk about Asia, you usually identify that starch as rice. Before 1980, it was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association that 90% of the food on a Chinese person's plate is rice. 90%
Wow.
of the food, and prior to 1980,
Wow.
they had virtually no type 2 diabetes. The reason for this article was published in 2013 in JAMA, the American Medical Association, is they wanted to point out the change that took place in the last 35 years. They wanted to show how the Chinese population is now obese and sick like Americans. They have the second largest number of Tesla supercharger stations in the world. China does. They are so rich. They worked for it. But along with it, they have developed a population where they reported in 2011 in JAMA, the 12% were diabetic, frankly diabetic, and half were pre-diabetic. Those numbers have increased. The numbers in younger people have drastically increased. This has happened all over the world, and that's why people are sick. They eat like kings and queens. They don't eat like the common person. For example, in Central America, the Aztecs and the Mayans. They're known as the people of the corn. They fought battles. They competed in athletic events. They bore children. They did everything to excellence, physically and mentally, for 1,300 years, getting corn as their basic source of calories. And if I say Asia, you say rice, and I say South America, you go, oh, well, they're the potato eaters, the potato eaters. And as you're thinking these thoughts, as I'm saying these words, you're going, hey, I like all those foods. They just tell me not to eat them because they're fattening and sickening. They'll make you fat and sick and give you diabetes. They will do that, they say. But that's 100% untrue. And just by the same way I told you, that there's virtually no type of diabetes in China before 1980.
So what do you recommend people who, when they hear these things, that the white rice causes diabetes, the white potato, or what is some of the, because there are some indications, I guess because they're eating now more of course, the animal products and the oils and increases insulin resistance, which you'll see a spike of diabetes with that. But how do you discuss that with people, what do you say?
What do I say? It's a hard sell, especially since everybody's selling something else. And I mean, there used to be a time back in the late 60s, 70s, early 80s when carbohydrate diets ruled. There was Nathan Pritikin. People understood a diet of starch, rice, corn, potatoes, beans was the diet people were supposed to eat. People understood that in the 1970s, and then industry understood that people were understanding this. And they thought about the tobacco industry and what happened to them when they were outed. People stopped smoking. Mm-hmm. And when the alcohol industry was outed, they stopped having 2 martini lunches. Mm. So the industry didn't want people to find out the truth. So they have worked with probably billions of dollars, mm-hmm. certainly hundreds of millions of dollars, to advertise in various ways the rich Western diet, and to make sure no one understands that 90% of the diseases people have are curable by changing their diet. Now, they don't do this as a conspiracy. They're not trying to hurt people. They're just doing business. They just want to sell milk and cheese and yogurt and beef and pork chops, and the guys and gals cleaning up the mess, the doctors and the hospitals and the pharmaceutical companies, they have no reason to interfere and straighten people out as far as the truth goes. Your most profitable businesses in your town are your medical businesses. I mean, just look around you. As I say, the biggest business in town is OHSU. Biggest, prettiest buildings in town are OHSU. Whatever your town is, the biggest building in town, the brightest, probably most frequented building, biggest employer in town is your hospital, your cancer center, your heart disease center. These are cash cows. I wonder how that fits in. Anyway, that's probably a good name for hospitals. It's cash cows.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just money, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody's trying to hurt you or your husband or your wife or your kids. So it's a hard sell because so much effort is going into telling you a lie. And there's no effort into going to tell you the truth. It just isn't. Okay. So when I come to somebody who's sick, the word is getting out, let's face it. I have to say on one side that I've been at this for 40 years. This alone, I've been teaching diet and practicing what you would call diet and lifestyle medicine. I've been changing people's diets for 40 years. As I tell you, I've taken care of more than 10,000 people, and in a living situation, more than 5,000. People are finding out. They're getting the last glimpse of what life really should be like and used to be for millions of years. How everybody was trim and they were warriors and they protected their children and their family, and they did all of this on barley, mm-hmm. or corn, some other grain, or some kind of root vegetable. And all the evidence is there. I mean, there are hundreds of scientific archaeological articles that show that people were all starch eaters, except for those who lived in the extremes, like being your Eskimo for the last 50,000 years. They did survive on an animal-based diet. It just proves just how tough the human being is.
Right, absolutely.
But there are just a few of these exceptions. Just maybe 100,000 people you can find ever live that way.
Absolutely. So, and you kind of spoke to it a little bit. So I know you certainly have frustrations with the current medical system and the public at large, but what are the positive things you see happening? I mean, you've kind of alluded to it, that things are changing.
Positive?
Yeah. Be positive. What do you find?
After the fire, right? Yeah. At least I don't have to go right to the funeral home. That's something positive. The hospital, I get to stop in the ER before I go to the funeral home. there are lots of positive things about medical doctors and hospitals, and they should be used in full force. These are treatments to take care of things like accidents. Where you cut yourself badly or get a fracture. You need help. You need just plain old mechanical medical help. When you get an infection, you get tremendous help from the medical business, pharmaceutical companies, by lancing the abscess and putting antibiotics in the bloodstream. So there are some things they have to do. They can be classified, narrowed to a category called acute illness. Just like with heart disease. If somebody has a sudden heart attack, a sudden blood clot form in their coronary artery, if you get in there within 90 minutes, all right, I'll give you 6 hours. If you get in there in 90 minutes, you can dissolve that clot. You could probably improve people's lives. But let's just go that far. Let's just give it to them. Within 90 minutes. After 90 minutes, the clot's fully formed, the tissue's fully dead in the heart. It's too late. So treatment of chronic coronary artery disease, as is most of the treatment administered for, almost all your angioplasties, your bypass surgeries are done for chronic coronary artery disease, not for a sudden heart attack. And they put so on the diagnostic sheet, ascending angina or some other made-up term that makes it more legitimate for them to collect illegal fees for doing procedures they shouldn't do. Because every single article every single significant article shows that surgery for chronic coronary artery disease does not save lives. You know it as a doctor. Every other doctor knows it. No doctor will deny it. Yet there are. This is a multi-billion-dollar-a-year business. Yeah. Anyway, so you asked me how do I get them to change. I find people that like themselves. That's a very important quality. You have to like yourself. To quit smoking, quit alcohol, not put a gun to your head, etc. You have to care about yourself. And once you find out you're 80 pounds overweight and people laugh at you on the beach, and that you've got to stop every 6 hours and put a shot of insulin in your leg, once you realize that these things are things that you don't have to do. In most cases, you don't have to be overweight. In most cases, it's really easy. Once they discover there's this option, but believe me, it's kept a secret, as we've talked about, and can more. Then people like themselves. They go, why not? I like bean burritos. I like pizza without cheese. I like pasta marinara sauce. I like bean soup, pea soup, tomato soup, oatmeal, hash brown potatoes. I like all those things. Why don't I just, hey, I tell you what, I'll give it 10 days. You get the same results that we've published. Always happens.
That's incredible.
Yeah, on average, always happens.
So as far as, you've had some amazing results, but do you see anything positive on the horizon as far as the public understanding of diet and physicians coming on board? I think I see the tide shifting, but I don't know. What do you think because you've had this 40 years of experience?
You're still young out of medicine.
No, I'm almost 50.
Really?
I am. My kids, I have a daughter in medical school and she's 24, 22, and a 20-year-old.
I can't carry on this conversation. What do you do for yourself? What do you eat? I want to do that.
Maybe it's all that green stuff and starch. I do eat a lot of starch. So.
This is either a very bad computer or you have done something very good. Anyway.
Yes.
You've lost me on the question.
What do you see in the horizon? What do you see on the horizon?
My son is a professor at OHSU.
I've spoken to him.
Oh, yeah, okay. He's an advisor.
Nice guy.
Good. You've made a good friend. He's an amazing guy. We talk about this, and quite honestly, he's practicing standard medicine with a hint of the truth because he doesn't want to be criticized by his colleagues. And he doesn't want to be known as the diet doctor, not right now in his life. But he certainly is known as somebody who uses the trends in treating that you and I use.
Mhm.
He's not known like me. When they look at me, they go, "Oh, there's a doctor that takes everybody off medications. There's the doctor who won't let patients get their breasts cut off. There's the doctor who told my neighbor not to have his heart operated on." You know, I mean, really dramatic things. They don't do that to him yet. They say, "Well, you know, Craig has a real knowledge and interest in good health and good nutrition. And he doesn't prescribe very many medications, and he really doesn't.
Mhm.
He prescribes fewer medications than I do." So he says that there's some interest, but not much. Really, not much. And the problem is this: you know, I mistaken you as at best a resident in age. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're so sweet.
Right here. It's early in the morning. When you're a student, when you think about going to medical school, you go for all the right reasons.
Mhm.
I want to help people. I want to make a difference. And yeah, I bet all of us thought, I'd like to make a good living too, because it is a good place to make money. Not the best, but a good place. And you went in with the right attitude. You were as poor as dirt, or you only had a couple of pairs of Levi's. And remember the days. And then you graduate. You went to residency, and they still paid you a numb sum of money, barely able to support yourself. But at least they supported you, got you enough to buy food. And then you got out and practice. You started having kids and a house and a car, and you started having to pay for these things. And the kids wanted to go on vacation, and they wanted to buy baseballs, and you had all these financial demands. And you started thinking about what you could do in your practice to increase that part of the business. So you have to, it's just business. So just like the milk industry and the beef industry and the Lipitor industry, you know, all these people aren't doing this to hurt you. They're just trying to make money. And so the doctor says, well, let's see, I could get one of these gadgets in here and push this button and shoot a few of these waves into them, and I can charge them $300 instead of talking to them, where I can only charge them, you know, you understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we all get trapped into the money part of the business. Very few. I actually know in my whole career, including myself, of very few doctors. I include myself as those who are interested in money. I'm not a person who lives in a shack and has a broken down bicycle only. I have a couple of friends like that, but they haven't seen them in years. Anyway, that's the way the business runs. You as a patient know that. You need to go to the doctor with the same attitude you go to the used car salesperson with. You don't walk in there to the car lot and say, what car should I buy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you ask questions, you go home, do a little research, think about it. Is that what I really want? You know, we don't. When it comes to buying a new refrigerator, we make sure we check out all the lines, consumers reports and so on. Doctor says you need your chest cut open. I need to put a stent in there or a graft in there. And you go, what day, what time? I think I know I can get off work. Or you need your right breast cut off, and we might as well take your left.
Yeah.
You know, yes, doctor. What time? What time? Oh, you can't do it until 2 months from now. That'll be fine, doctor. I'll keep my schedule open.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Something is wrong here between customer and provider. Something is wrong. So anyway, do I see things improving? Not enough to tell you I do. You know, we did a study. I told you I'm up in Portland now. And OHSU is like almost spitting distance from me. That study I did at OHSU. It was probably 5-6 years ago. Well, they were amazed. The professors of neurology But first of all, when they saw the initial 1-year results, they said, "You will not believe this. These people, 85% of them, adhered to the diet for a year. We've never seen people take pills that consistently for a year." And I heard them a long time at OHSU neurology department say, "We're going to be known as the diet MS center of the world. The diet MS center of the world we're going to be known as." Well, today I was reading in the Lancet, the journal Lancet, a paper about how improvement in the progression of MS has not been shown to be effective. The drugs do not slow the progression of the disease. They change secondary components, like the number of relapses. But as far as the total degeneration to bed and grave, the drugs do not change. They are not effective.
Right.
And this new drug that just came out, they just did a commentary in today's Lancet. And I think today's the 29th of March, isn't it?
30th.
Now, you can look it up if you want. A commentary. It said the treatments are ineffective. So what did I do right after I got done reading the article? I pushed forward and sent the article to my 2 principal investigators, the head of neurology and my principal investigator, which is right there.
DJ, right?
Let's touch it. And I said, when is OHSU neurology department going to become known as the diet MS center of the world? I said, especially since all the other treatments are criminally expensive, $75,000 a year for the drug, and they've not been shown to work in the way the patient wants, which is to slow the progression to bed, disability, and death. I wonder what kind of reply I get. It's probably on my computer now. My principal investigator usually answers my snide comments. I mean, why aren't we known as the diet center of the world? It was discovered here at OHSU. The use of diet to stop MS. Where Swank discovered it. Worked on it in the early and mid 1900s. He took care of 5,000 people. He found that you could stop MS, and he told me basically every case. I asked Dr. Swank. We were in his basement office right over there about 20 years ago. We've been friends for 20 plus years. He's died since. But I've got this on video, by the way, old home video. So you can watch them. So it's on my website if you want to watch it. You can watch it. I said, Dr. Swank, how often does the treatment fail of putting people on a starch-based, I call it starch-based, she called it a low saturated fat. Saturated fat are animal products. When anybody says saturated fat, they're talking about eggs and dairy and meat. So he talked about it as a low saturated fat diet. I talked about it as a starch-based diet. I said, oh, how often does it fail? I said, well, maybe 1 in 200 times. And these people over here know it. When I first came to OHSU with our research project, they didn't have, I didn't perceive them having good thoughts about Dr. Swank. He was head of neurology there for 23 years. But after being there for several years, me being there for several years as part of this research project, and then seeing over 60 people involved in this diet change, they know the truth now. But what I ask every time I see them, you got the truth that diet will stop the disease. And then you've got the published article today from the Lancet that says the drugs don't work. How could a moral person do anything but the right thing?
Right.
I gotta get that. I would change the lens over there and show you how big and beautiful that hospital is setting in. You'd think there was a point that we had as human beings where we would stop. And I think that discussion I just gave you is cause enough, concern enough for people to do the right thing.
I actually have hope for this younger generation. So my daughter and her fiance are both plant-based, and they want to do the right thing, even with
How do they make their
the
money?
diet. I'm sorry? How will they make money?
Money.
I think there's going to be ways. I'm more hopeful. Did you know
I ask you how they make their money.
oh, how will they make their money?
No,
I
how
think
do they make money?
they're going to have to change reimbursement. We can't keep doing fee for service. I mean, we can't. There's just no way. That's changing.
Children are in a time of life when they don't understand reality. Sorry. I have grandchildren at that age. Great. And they're also going to end all wars, and they're going to change the administration, and they're going to do all of these things.
I will.
I was there once too.
I will have to say, I was in regular practice in Colorado and incorporated this heavily into my practice and still did well. People actually were seeking me out for help. What's interesting though, I went to college in Portland and I did research at OHSU 20 years ago.
Yeah.
25 years ago now. And I was in the anatomy department there, but I didn't realize Dr. Swank was there. But I've spoken to your principal investigator, VJ, too, on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very sweet. So I understand.
So why doesn't she practice like I taught her how to? Tell me.
I don't know.
She's my friend. She's my friend. I love her. She's a wonderful person. She knows this exactly. She knows I'm telling the truth. She will tell you that what I say is true. She never denies it, but why does she continue to do what she does? I'm asking you. I don't have the answer.
I don't know why. I know once that I've found.
She has to make a living. But besides
true.
I don't have an answer. She likes working in neurology. That's fun. She likes to be a doctor. But if her goal was to cure her patients, I really shouldn't personally be picking on her, because this is a general statement I offer to all of my colleagues.
Right.
If you really cared, you get a side job to make money and you teach people to cure their disease. Little kids who are obese, 17% of them are obese. You teach them how not to be obese. Right. You would cure people in their teenage years who are now in wheelchairs for MS. You go find a job maybe at a racetrack and get your money, and then do what you really are supposed to do as a doctor.
Yes.
Now tell me why our colleagues don't do this.
Well, I'll tell you why I do it, but there's reasons.
You are 1 in 10 million.
But you know what? I don't think they know how to start. So I have an MBA learning. I understand the business aspect, but also I think they needed help. I have plenty of physicians reach out to me. How do you do it? How do I, in a busy family practice, how do I actually incorporate this and make a living? And there are ways. I ended up starting a lifestyle medicine clinic after hours also. Yeah. And in Western Colorado, my first meeting, just an informational meeting, I had 106 people show up for 30 slots. So there is hope. So people will learn, but you can build. There is ways to do it.
You are 50. I am 70. There's more naiveness to be taken away.
My goodness.
What you're saying to these people listening is you and I, but let me finish. We took a different route. Your idea that there's no way for doctors to learn to practice this way is not true. They could figure it out just like I did. I figured it out, how to practice this way over my career. Hey, I'm no special genius. I just had an interest and I figured out how to do it. I figured several ways how to do it. And if you know who I am and you have some value in my work, you'll look through my newsletters and there'll be a whole newsletter which is about how my colleagues can set up a profitable practice using the kind of dietary change that I recommend. Can make tons of money in the current setting. It's one of my newsletters I wrote about 3 years ago. Everything about how you've already done it, but you've done it in your own ways, but how other physicians can do it and feel good about themselves. So they could. I'll tell you. Let's just. We're going to end this conversation. It's getting too. Let's just say we changed the financial system. Let's just say we had universal care like you and I think we should have, because currently medical care is immoral. It's the way we treat people is, it's immoral. To take and have a person get sick and offer them care that takes their entire life savings away. One treatment. Takes all their college funds saved for the kids away. One treatment. No, I'm perfectly fine. One thing could happen to me. Everything I have saved would be gone. Could be.
Right.
If things didn't go well. That is not a just system. Immoral people run that system. Yeah. Now, let's just say you and I were in charge. We did our own tweets. And let's just say we decided what we were going to do is, and this was tried once, probably when you first started, we paid people on a per patient basis. I forgot what we called it. It's about 20 years ago. We'd pay the physician a certain number of dollars for each patient, then the patient would gather a group of, say, 2,000 or 3,000 people, and he or she would get a bucket full of money at the beginning of the year, and everything that went wrong with the patient, they would have to pay for. Mm-hmm. You remember what that was called?
Bundled payments, or ACOs too. Are you talking about ACOs?
That's what it should be. Is you should be rewarded for a herd, a flock, a group. Mm-hmm. A bunch of patients that you keep well. Right. So say for example, you gave me 200,000, or no, you have to remember. Say you gave me $1 million a year, and I had to take care of all the snotty noses, all the heart problems, all the breast cancer surgeries of 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. And I got to keep the rest. Hey, I'd be having morning meetings before breakfast, or before our meeting with oatmeal and hash browns. I'd have after dinner meetings after our pasta dinner with my patients. We'd be having meetings 3 times a week. That's the only way you can change it to a fair system. Is you have to change who gets rewarded and why.
Right, absolutely. No,
You're not going to change the basic human nature of human beings. Human beings are the way we are because that's the way we're built. So rather than trying to change the human being, why don't we just change the rules? You do it. I'm 70, you're 50. You got time.
I'm closing in on 50, not quite, but close. I will tell you, but
there you go. I know it. You're probably only 32.
40. I'll be 48 this year.
See, you should have seen me when I was 68. I looked like I was 18.
Well, I hope to be the same way, but I will tell you a really good example of that. My son, who's 19, crashed into a tree about last month snowboarding, and we were between insurances. We had moved cross country from Florida to Washington State, where I am now, and he had, in that 18 period where we did not have insurance, he had that accident, and so we had to pay a COBRA, so we will have coverage, but if we didn't have that option of COBRA, $82,000 for that 3-day hospital stay.
That's his entire college education.
Gone. That's exactly 4 years at the University of Colorado where he goes. And that would be absolutely devastating. And this isn't a healthy kid, by the way, who's plant-based, all the kids are, had such great, he's growing so well and healing so well, no pain, that his physical therapist has made comments about, maybe I need to go on a plant-based diet as well. But he's been a great, but that you're exactly right. The system is broken in the sense that we can't provide the care that we need, and we're doing sick care. We're not doing health care. It's very reactive, but absolutely. So
just to give you one overall comment, I have been in this business probably maybe 20 years, if not 30 years longer than you have. And, I've watched things change. There was time like in the 70s when we were talking about universal health care. The Surgeon General's reports started coming out. Actually, the U.S. dietary goals came out in 1977. So I had a lot of hope. I was probably more optimistic than you are right now. I'm sure I was. But I kept waiting and waiting into the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And now we're in the approach 2020. And I want to tell you, it's not changed. It's not better. The patient is at more risk. It costs more money. Overall, things are worse, not better. There were, the first heart surgery, popular heart surgery was done at Cleveland Clinic in 1968. And in 1990, they were doing about 300,000 in the US. And now they're doing about 1 million.
Wow.
Excuse me, angioplasties, not bypasses, angioplasties. The bypass was first done in 68, and the angioplasty was first done in 78. Sorry about the date. But anyway, just look at the number of procedures. I'll tell you another one that really, I wish I could say it, but just say, it makes me mad. It really makes me mad is that in the early 80s, I got a law passed in the state of Hawaii on informed consent. It was the third law. I did it. There were some lay people, but I was the only medical person involved. It was the third law in the US. The US now has 18 laws of informed consent. It was a law that forced physicians to tell women that regardless of what surgery they had, they would live the same length of time. And I ended up writing a brochure, which still is handed out. It was in about 1980, 82. Yeah. Anyway, the incidence, the number of mastectomies went down after that. At that time, 92% of the breast operations in Hawaii were mastectomies, 93%. And the other is the other 7% were mastectomies because they were too sick to have that operation. So after that law came out, and several more, as I say, there are at least 18 laws of informed consent to help women. They're not forced. They're just there. The incidence of mastectomy went down to about 40%. And 60% were lumpectomies. But I want to tell you now, today, over the last 10 years, the incidence of mastectomies is rising rapidly. I mean, it's something that's happened that I can't even believe. When everybody, every study, everything says this is a mutilating operation that does not save lives. It went down when truth first came out in the early 80s. But just as soon as they were able to forget it, the breast cancer surgeons are back at it. No, you can't have a lumpectomy. Mastectomy is much better. Anyway. I'm not going to go into those details. So no, I don't think things are better. And yes, I think my colleagues are wonderful people. They're just like me. Motivated with the things I am. They're just like me. It's just that they didn't have the fortune and opportunities I had, which allowed me to make the change that you're asking. How will our colleagues do it? Well, we have to change the financial system.
True.
And how do we do that? The show is not about that.
I think there's many creative elements that we could probably take to help improve the system, for sure. But I know we said 45 minutes, so I'm going to keep to that. And thank you, Dr. McDougall, so much for your time today and insight and energy. And just, I knew you'd be a fiery one, and I love it. So thank you so much, and I do appreciate your time.
Just wait till you get me later in the day. Okay, let me talk to you and your audience. I'm glad to know that you're among several. There are other doctors. I had a breast cancer surgeon write me a month ago and said, after listening to me for 22 years and chopping off breasts, she quit. She said, today I quit. After 22 years doing mastectomies, I won't do them anymore. And I asked her to join me more publicly, and she so far hasn't. But I get a letter, email from one doctor or another once in a while. So I know there are a few of us out there. In proportion to the regular practice of medicine, what would I guess it is? It's probably less than 100,000, 1 in 100,000 of us. Certainly less than 1 in 10,000 of us put any effort into, seriously, changing their diet. Would you agree with those figures?
I don't know, because do you know Dr. Scott Stoll and the Plantation Project?
Yes. So, and I've been to the meetings.
Yeah, they're growing.
300, 500 doctors. How many doctors do you think are in the U.S.?
There were 900 last year, and they're expecting over 1,200 this year.
Well, I think 1,200. But how many doctors are there?
What, 800,000, I think, in the U.S.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
you get my point. If it was the right thing to do for the right amount of money, I knew this back in the 70s. Nathan Pritikin practiced this fully in the 70s. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew about Nathan Pritikin in the 70s. Everybody knew about the treatment in the 70s. I'm sorry. I can't hear any more excuses. So I have a website that I think is the best website out there. I mean, the best compared to Ford, GM, Kroger's. I think we got the best website on the market.
You have a great website. I actually used it when I first was transitioning to my practice to plant-based.
Go to McDougall.com, use the search engine, use the hot topics. And I wrote newsletters once a month on a subject, different subject, this month, 38 years. We have hundreds of videos. I probably have 50 videos on the website. All this is easy to learn.
Yeah. In the beginning, I watched almost probably all your videos and read many of your articles because I wasn't sure how to incorporate this into practice.
Did you find any mistakes? Did you find any mistakes?
No, I actually implemented a lot what you said.
I've talked to my colleagues. I've talked to my colleagues about this for a long time. And some people have come up to me and say, I look up your references to see whether you're exaggerating or not. Like Dr. So does, one of our buddies in the plant business. He cheats. He lies about the references. I'm not going to tell you who he is. There are probably several, but one of them I know. So anyways, she's a doctor. She says, I look up all this other doctor's references, and he cheats. He lies. He exaggerates. And we were talking for a while. I said, wait a minute. How about my references? How about my articles? Oh, yeah, I look up all your references, all your articles, too. I said, did you find any exaggeration or cheating or lying? He said, no. It's like, did you expect me to? Anyway, resources there, drmcdougall.com, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to your colleagues, friends.
Yes, sir.
There's the advantage of your knowledge.
It's been a good thing, and thank you so much.